When did a single spa bill shatter your entire reality? I'm literally sitting in my 2018 Honda Civic in the parking garage under the office building right now, eating a soggy, lukewarm Chipotle bowl that has been in my lunch bag since noon. Because if I go home, I will absolutely start screaming, and the neighbors in apartment 3B already hate me. NGL, I just found out my life is basically a poorly written Hulu drama, and I am the lead clown. I'm Jean Choi, 72F, and I thought I had everything figured out, I've been through raising a kid solo, working my butt off, finally reaching that age where you think you've earned some peace and quiet and maybe a decent subscription to Disney Plus without worrying if the rent will clear. But of course, life decided to hit me with a 2x4. This whole mess started, believe it or not, with a $347 spa bill. Single, stupid bill, slipped between the Costco coupons and the junk mail that came to my house on Tuesday at 11:47 a.m. Let me back up because I don't even know where to start with this dumpster fire. I work in insurance administration. Yeah, riveting, I know. I'm good at it though, detail-oriented. I manage all the quarterly reports and I am the person who literally knows where every single cent goes. Maybe that's why this whole financial deceit thing is making my stomach do flip-flops. The main characters in this tragic comedy, aside from me, are my sweet, oblivious friend Robert Brooks, 76M, and my incredibly irritating colleague, Ethan Anderson, 45M. And then there's Teresa Roberts, 46F, the office know-it-all, who, spoiler alert, actually knew too much for comfort this time. Robert, bless his heart, is the kindest man on the planet. He's been my rock for the last 2 years and 8 months, ever since we met at the community garden. He's a widower, a retired history teacher, and basically the family peacemaker of his entire extended clan, which is huge, by the way. He drives a beat-up Toyota Corolla he insists on fixing himself, and he still uses a Samsung Galaxy that looks like it survived a war. He's financially comfortable, but ridiculously frugal. We split expenses down the middle always. Rent is $1,247 split. Groceries usually run about $43.67 per Trader Joe's run. We track every single Venmo request, because that is what normal, honest adults do, right? Which brings us to Ethan. Oh God, Ethan. Ethan is the embodiment of the office brown-noser. He's 45, still wears those awful aggressively tailored suits, and is constantly talking about his imaginary yacht club membership. Manages the new accounts team on the 5th floor, and he makes every single meeting about how busy and important he is. He's the type of person who leaves his Apple Watch lying face up on the desk just so you can see his steps count. He's constantly boasting about his expensive BMW he definitely cannot afford, given what I know about his salary range, but whatever, I usually just ignore him. I'm a single-parent warrior. I do not have time for this corporate peacocking. We were forced together last week because of the quarterly budget review. It was Tuesday, and I was absolutely exhausted. I only got 4 hours of sleep the night before because my Ring doorbell kept alerting me to raccoons attacking my trash cans. I had already dealt with a stressful morning. I had 27 Slack messages in the first hour, and my iPhone 14 battery was down to 34% by 10 a.m. I had a panic attack when I realized the plumber charged me $85 just to look at the leaky faucet last week. Money stress is real, people. The meeting was supposed to be quick, just Ethan, Teresa, and me going over spending anomalies for the Q2 reports. Teresa Roberts, 46F, is the absolute worst. She's one of those people who uses every conversation as an excuse to prove she knows more about everything, from pivot tables to global politics. She literally started the meeting by saying, well, technically, Jean, the deficit should be factored in before the amortization schedule, even though I wrote the amortization schedule. I swear I wanted to scream, but I just smiled and nodded like the professional I am. Internally, I was composing a furious email to HR, TBH. Ethan was, naturally, running late. He swaggered in at 10:15 a.m., 20 minutes late, holding a Starbucks cup venti, probably some ridiculous custom-ordered espresso beverage that costs $8, and apologizing profusely while making eye contact with everyone but the people actually running the meeting. Sorry guys, massive client emergency, he puffed, even though his calendar was clearly marked budget review. He sat down and started loudly tapping on his laptop, trying to look important. He dove into the spending. Everything was pretty normal until we got to the corporate credit card expenditures for client entertainment and wellness. This is where things went sideways. Teresa, in her usual condescending tone, pointed at a line item. Okay, so there's this weird surge here. $750 spent on a single day, June 14th, at a place called Serenity Now Spa. Is this a new vendor, Jean? I don't recognize the name. I squinted at the screen. Handle all the invoicing. Serenity Now Spa? That's not one of our approved vendors. We use the Midtown Athletic Club for corporate wellness. We have negotiated rates. Ethan immediately jumped in, waving his hand dismissively. Oh, that was me, minor glitch. I had a huge presentation, needed to unwind, treated myself, mental health day. I used the wrong card by accident. It happens. I already paid it back. Did you really, Ethan? Asked, pulling up the reconciliation report. Because the $750 charge is still showing as outstanding on the company card, and there's no Zelle or Cash App reimbursement to accounts payable for that amount. Ethan went a little pale under his expensive tan. Oh, I must have done a partial payment. I'll clear it up today, trust me. It says here $750, Teresa chirped, literally adjusting her glasses to emphasize her point. Not partial, and in GL, a $750 spa day? That better have included gold leaf wraps and a private helicopter. Ethan stammered. It was a couple's package. I thought it was a better deal. Red flag alert, I know, but I was focused on the budget at the time. We made a note. I told him he needed to pay it back by 5:30 p.m. or I was flagging it to management. He started sweating. I moved on. Had a $1,247 rent payment to process and I couldn't afford any more distractions. I thought that was the end of the spa drama. Past me was such an idiot. That evening I got home and there it was, the mail. Robert was out walking his neighbor's dog. He's the sweetest, remember? I was just tired and wanted to change out of my work clothes and watch some trash TV on Netflix. I grabbed the stack, tossed the IKEA catalog, the coupons, and then stopped. It was a statement in a plain white envelope addressed to R. Brooks. Robert is meticulous. He never lets bills pile up. He literally files everything the minute it arrives. And the statement was from a credit card company I didn't recognize, Global Elite Services. I know, invading his mail is bad. But listen, my gut was screaming. After that suspicious $750 charge at work, the math wasn't mathing. I trust Robert implicitly, but something felt cold and heavy in my chest. I felt my hands shaking as I opened it. The statement was for a black card. Not literally black, but one of those super high-limit exclusive cards. Robert uses a basic Visa for everything, pays it off monthly. I looked at the name on the card, Robert E. Brooks, and then I saw the balance, $42,987. I nearly dropped the entire stack of mail. Robert, and almost $43,000 of debt? He constantly talks about his investments and how he only spends money at Costco. He almost had a heart attack when I suggested we upgrade our Netflix subscription to include the premium HD viewing. My mind started racing. Denial hit first. Maybe this is a business card. Maybe it's a mistake. Flip through the itemized transactions, looking for the usual. Grocery bills, maybe a dinner at Olive Garden, perhaps some gas money for the beat-up Corolla. Nope. The transactions listed were insane. 2 flights to the Bahamas. $5,000 spent at a jewelry store in the city. $2,000 spent on designer menswear. And then, there was the one that made me physically ill, like I might actually throw up my leftover Panera soup from lunch. June 14th. Same day as Ethan's huge corporate charge. Serenity Now Spa, exclusive couples retreat package, $347. My brain literally short-circuited. Wait, $347. Ethan paid $750 on the corporate card for a couples package at the same spa on the same day? If Robert was the one using the secret black card, and he was at the Serenity Now Spa, who was the couple he was treating? And why was Ethan's name involved? The math wasn't mathing. I felt dizzy. I had to sit down on the floor in the hallway. My chest felt tight. I was staring at the address on the black card statement, trying to figure out if it was even our address. It was. Apartment 3 be our home. I went straight to the freezer and grabbed the Talenti gelato, the whole pint. Ate half of it standing up, still trying to process the level of deception required to hide a $43,000 high roller credit card and international travel for 2 years and 8 months. Robert, the family peacemaker, was living a whole double life. When Robert came back an hour later, chatting happily about the dog, I was ready. I didn't want to be dramatic, but I was shaking. Robert, I said, my voice sounding weirdly high-pitched. We need to talk. About Global Elite Services. He stopped dead in the hallway. The dog leash dropped to the floor. The color drained from his face so fast I thought he was going to collapse. Remember, he's 76. Gene, I can explain. Explain what? Explain the $42,987 debt? Explain the 2 tickets to the Bahamas? Or maybe you can explain the $347 charge at Serenity Now Spa on June 14th? I held up the statement. Didn't try to lie, he just looked devastated. He sat down slowly on the couch, running a hand over his face. Those cards, they're old, before you, from my previous marriage. Robert, the statements are monthly. They were mailed here. Why were they hidden? And why did you spend $347 on a couple's spa package last week? I was whispering fiercely because I didn't want the neighbor upstairs to hear. He finally confessed part of it. Admitted he had 3 separate credit cards, not high limit, but 3 secret cards that he kept strictly separate from our shared finances, primarily because he was doing some freelance consulting and wanted to manage the expenses separately. He said he was trying to surprise me with a big trip once he paid off the balances. I know, I almost believed it for a second, but the spa charge didn't fit the surprise narrative. Robert, who were you at the spa with? Avoided my eyes. It was a work thing, Gene. I took a potential consulting partner there. We needed privacy, a place to discuss the terms. Potential partner required a couple's massage package and total discretion in a spa setting? I scoffed. Robert, I'm 72 years old. I was not born yesterday. That's a terrible lie. It's the truth, he insisted, but his voice was weak. I need this consulting job. It's a lot of money. I needed to wine and dine the person. Okay, I said, trying to be calm. So who is this person? Give me a name. He looked frantic. He looked genuinely scared. I can't. It's confidential. I signed an NDA. An NDA for a spa trip with a potential client? I was done, just done. I told him I needed space and walked out. I didn't even pack an overnight bag. I just grabbed my keys, my wallet, and my crack screen iPhone and left, landing here in my Honda Civic in the Target parking garage, where I've been stress-eating this Chipotle bowl. The next morning, I was wired. I went to the office early. I couldn't focus on the Q3 projections. I needed answers, and I had a terrible, nagging suspicion about the $750 corporate charge and Robert's $347 personal charge, both at Serenity Now Spa on the same day. I realized something critical. Ethan had panicked when he was confronted about the $750. He said he paid it back, but he hadn't. I walked over to Teresa's cube. She was already there, impeccably dressed, probably having finished her Peloton workout at 5 a.m. Teresa, do you have a minute? I asked. She looked up from her enormous monitor, where she was probably comparing her stock portfolio to the national average. For you, Gene, always. I'm just trying to figure out why the Q2 P&L statement shows a $200 withdrawal from petty cash under miscellaneous office supplies. but I suspect it was just Greg in it buying more energy drinks. It's about the spa charge, I said quietly, leaning in so the gossips in the next cubicle couldn't hear. The Serenity Now spa charge, $750 on Ethan's corporate card, June 14th. Teresa's eyes got wide. Oh, yes. Infamous couples massage, did he ever pay it back? No, he hasn't, but I did some digging last night. I looked up Serenity Now Spa. Their website is really slick. They only offer 3 main packages. One for singles, one for deep relaxation, and one, their most expensive, is the Ultimate Partner's Escape, which is listed at $1,097 for 2 people, including a special wine tasting. Teresa frowned. $750 is an odd number for that. Exactly. But they also offer a discreet day retreat, which includes 90 minutes of treatment and a private suite. That package is $347 per person, minimum 2 people. Teresa stared at me. Wait, if it's $347 per person, 2 people would be $694, plus maybe tax or a service fee. That gets us close to $750. Why would Ethan put the corporate card on one half and Robert put the secret credit card on the other? My blood ran cold. I hadn't connected the charges that way. Robert's charge was $347. Ethan's corporate charge was $750, but maybe that included other services, or perhaps it covered his half and then some. But the connection was undeniable. Ethan and Robert were at the spa together. It gets better, I hissed, leaning closer. I found a credit card statement for Robert, my boyfriend. He has a secret credit card, a high roller one. He charged $347 to it at Serenity Now Spa on the exact same date and time. Teresa just gasped. This time, her gasp was genuine. The know-it-all mask dropped away. Jean, are you saying your Robert and our Ethan are getting spa treatments together? Don't know what I'm saying, Teresa, but Robert is lying about why he was there and Ethan is lying about using the corporate card for a personal retreat. I needed proof, hard proof. I needed the actual receipt from the spa. Teresa, I said, looking her dead in the eye, I need the name of the general manager for Serenity Now Spa. We use corporate wellness accounts. We might have a contact. Teresa was suddenly all business. I can pull that up on LinkedIn. Give me 5 minutes. I was typing furiously. I sat back down at my desk, trying to look normal while my world was imploding. I had 247 unread emails, and all I could focus on was the fact that Robert, my supposedly financially prudent, honest, 76-year-old peacemaker, was either having a clandestine affair, a shady business dealing, or both with the office brown-noser Ethan. 5 minutes later, Teresa walked back over holding a post-it note. His name is Martin Chen. Guess what? He's a former colleague of Ethan's from 3 jobs ago. They were both in consulting. They're Facebook friends. Oh my God, everything finally clicked. The audacity, the sheer audacity of these 2 men. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't confront Ethan here. I needed to hit them where they lived, in their wallets, in their secrecy, and where they felt most exposed. The spa. I took the afternoon off, using up 4 hours of my precious PTO, claiming a dental emergency. I called Martin Chen at the spa. I identified myself as the senior administrator for accounts payable at my company, which was technically true. I told him I needed to sort out a complex billing issue involving 2 clients who accidentally split a charge across a corporate card and a private card on June 14th, and I needed the itemized receipt showing the breakdown. I used all my corporate charm, which, after 40 years, is considerable. I mentioned that if this wasn't sorted, we might have to cancel our potential corporate contract expansion with them. Lie, but whatever, I saw red. Martin Chen, who sounded like he was 22 and terrified of upsetting a corporate client, immediately agreed to email the itemized receipt, but he insisted on emailing it to my work account, citing privacy. I agreed, hung up, and drove straight to the nearest Starbucks, sitting there in the drive-through lane waiting for the email. Bought a black coffee large because I was wired, exhausted, and running on pure rage. The email landed 15 minutes later. I pulled over to the side street and opened the attachment. It was the receipt. Handwritten note in the corner, split per client request. $347 paid by black card, Robert B. $750 corporate charge, Ethan A. The itemized list was clear. It wasn't a couple's massage. It was a privacy suite rental for 4 hours. $347. Full payment for the discreet day retreat for 1 person, Robert's black card. $347. Full payment for the discreet day retreat for 1 person, covered by Ethan's corporate card, but marked as $750 total, meaning Ethan had added an extra $403 worth of product or gift certificates to the charge, likely pocketing the difference or buying something non-related. But there, at the bottom, under the special instructions, requesting advanced privacy protocol, all camera feeds disabled during the treatment period. Clients are utilizing the suite for private business communication. My eyes started to burn. The spa wasn't the violation, it was the cover. They needed absolute privacy. But why? If Robert and Ethan were just having a work meeting, why the multiple secret cards, the lies, the sheer expense, and the extreme measure of disabling security cameras at a wellness center? I sat there, staring at the receipt. Robert's secret debt, Ethan's corporate fraud, and a privacy threat that required physical security measures to be disabled. This was more than a silly affair. This smelled like a crime. I had the proof. I had the connection. I had the motive, money, clearly. Drove back to the office, my mind racing. I was done being the silent victim, the single-parent warrior who just accepts BS. I pulled back into the parking garage where I am now. I started scrolling through my phone, pulling up the company directory. I looked at Ethan's bio, looking for any weak spots. His profile picture showed him smiling with his wife and 2 young kids. What a piece of work. Then I realized the biggest weapon I had, the resolution approach. Tell the truth publicly. If this was a financial conspiracy involving corporate funds and hidden accounts, one quiet discussion in HR wasn't going to cut it. It had to be undeniable. It had to be public. I checked my calendar. Tomorrow is Friday. We have the mandatory all-staff quarterly meeting at 10 a.m. in the main auditorium. Everyone will be there. Robert, Ethan, Teresa, and the CEO. I felt the adrenaline surge. I pulled out my laptop, my hand still shaking, and opened a new email to Teresa. Attach the Serenity Now Spa receipt. Subject: Ray, Serenity Now Spa billing anomaly action required. Teresa, I know exactly what happened on June 14th. This is bigger than $750. I need you to print 30 copies of this itemized receipt. Do not print them on the office printer. Go to Kinko's or something, discreetly. I need them by 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. Meet me in the conference room C lobby. I am blowing this up. I'm going to tell them what they did, and I'm going to show everyone. I'm not just talking to management, I am talking to the entire company. I hit send. I took a deep breath, finished my cold, sad Chipotle, and looked at the clock. It was 1:57 a.m. I needed to sleep, but I was wired. Just as I was about to close my laptop, my phone buzzed. Not a text, but a specific notification that makes my stomach drop every single time. It was a bank alert, Robert's secret black card. A $200 withdrawal just processed from an ATM near the office. At 1:55 a.m., he was here, right now, in the building. And then another notification, this one from my Ring doorbell app back at apartment 3B, a video alert. Robert was at the door, but he wasn't alone. He was talking rapidly to someone outside of the camera's view, gesturing wildly. I turned up the volume on my phone. Robert, I can't believe she found it. I told you I hid them deep under the floorboard in the utility closet. You have to get the rest of the documents out now. Before she goes nuclear tomorrow, we have maybe 8 hours. A voice replied, muffled at first, but then clearer as the person stepped into the light of the porch. A younger, smoother voice. It was Ethan Anderson. Ethan, look, I got the petty cash. That's enough for the Uber, but the key to the safe deposit box is still at the spa. I need to go back before they open. We're compromised, Robert. This isn't a negotiation anymore. This is everything. I gasped, literally choking on my lukewarm coffee. They were conspiring, and they were talking about a safe deposit box and compromising documents. The last thing I saw before the Ring app logged me out due to low bandwidth was Ethan pulling Robert urgently away from the door, toward a waiting vehicle. I looked out my Civic window, across the dark parking garage. A Honda was parked on P2. If they were heading toward a car, they might be here, maybe on P1 or P3. I am sitting here, 72 years old, about to confront a massive financial conspiracy, maybe corporate fraud, maybe something worse, involving the man I loved and the office weasel I hated. I have 8 hours until the company meeting. I have evidence that proves they were meeting for something highly secretive. I need to know what they are trying to retrieve from that safe deposit box. I know exactly where they're going. I put my car in reverse. I'm driving to Serenity Now Spa right now. I have to find out what Robert Brooks and Ethan Anderson are really hiding. Tell me I'm not crazy, Reddit, because I'm about to blow up my entire life. What should I do when I find them? Should I call the police? Or should I wait for 10 a.m. tomorrow and just release the documents to everyone? I don't even know. Wish me luck. I'll update you when I get back from the spa. If I get back, okay, I'm back. I'm physically shaking right now. That last post, I was still sitting in the Honda Civic at 1:57 a.m., right? I drove straight to the spa. I know, 72-year-old single-parent warrior chasing corporate spies in the middle of the night. It felt like an insane decision, but the alternative was sitting at home waiting for 10 a.m. to blow up my life without knowing exactly what I was blowing up. I drove, and in GL I broke about 5 traffic laws. Serenity Now Spa is in a very fancy, very exclusive strip mall about 40 minutes from the office. When I got there, it was 2:40 a.m. The place was pitch black. No surprise, it's a spa, not a 24-hour convenience store. I parked across the street behind a dumpster, which smelled exactly how you'd expect a dumpster in an expensive neighborhood to smell. Classy. I turned off the engine and just watched. 5 minutes later, I saw them. Seriously, I almost screamed. A black Mercedes SUV, the kind that screams. I leased this vehicle and cannot actually afford the premium fuel, pulled up right in front of the spa entrance. Ethan was driving. Robert was in the passenger seat. They got out, looking furtive. Ethan was wearing those ridiculous expensive athletic pants that cost $200 and a black hoodie. Robert, my supposed fiancé, was wearing the same tweed jacket he wore to the community garden meeting last week. He looked ancient and terrified. They walked right up to the door. Ethan fiddled with something on his phone, likely a keycard access app or something, because the door didn't open. They started arguing quietly, but I could still hear the tension. Robert was whispering furiously. I told you, they change the code every Thursday at midnight. This is why I said we needed to retrieve the key before the weekend. Ethan threw his hands up, clearly enraged. Well, I was busy managing the client emergency you caused, and the black card withdrawal was necessary. You can't retrieve documents without transportation, Robert. Wait. Robert's $200 ATM withdrawal at 1:55 a.m.? That was for Ethan's Uber. The audacity. Sheer lack of respect for Robert's financial resources, which I now knew were also Robert's secret financial resources. So they were locked out. They stood there, maybe 10 minutes, getting increasingly agitated. Ethan started pacing, pulling at his hair, which BTW I suspect is dyed. Robert kept repeating, the safe deposit box, Ethan. We need the contents of the safe deposit box. If Jean knows about that, we are finished. Not just fired, but legally finished. This confirmed my worst fears. This wasn't a petty affair. This was criminal. This involved documents and legal trouble. Robert, the family peacemaker, was mixed up in some deep financial dirt with the office brown-noser. I felt sick, but also weirdly vindicated. It wasn't me, it was them. Finally, Ethan got back into the Mercedes, slammed the door, and started making calls. Robert stayed outside, slumped against the marble planter, looking like a man whose entire life had just been exposed by a 72-year-old woman with a Chipotle bowl and a Ring doorbell. I watched as Ethan's calls failed. He looked like he was about to cry. Eventually, he backed up the Mercedes, did a terrible three-point turn, and sped off toward the main highway, leaving Robert stranded. Robert just stood there, staring at the dark spa, then slowly he pulled out his sad, beat-up Samsung Galaxy and started typing. I knew he was calling an Uber or maybe calling me. I wasn't going to let him get away. I put the Honda in drive, flicked on my headlights, and pulled out of the shadows. Robert looked up, squinting against the light. When he saw my Honda, his jaw dropped. I pulled up next to him and rolled down the window. The cold night air hit me. I felt surprisingly calm, like the eye of a hurricane. Need a lift, Robert? I asked, my voice completely flat. He stammered. Jean, what are you doing here? How did you? I was going to call you. I was going to explain everything. Oh, I think I heard plenty of your explanation via the ring notification when you and Ethan were discussing compromising documents in safe deposit boxes, I said, leaning over the passenger seat. Get in. We need to talk before the sun comes up. He hesitated for a moment, genuinely thinking about running, I think, but where would he go? His beat-up Corolla wasn't here. He got into the car, pulling the tweed jacket tightly around him. The tension was immediate. We sat there in the dark parking lot for a full minute, the only sound the gentle hum of the Honda's engine. You're going to tell me everything, I commanded. Right now, start with the safe deposit box and the $43,000 debt. He sighed, a deep rattling sound that made him sound every bit of 76 years old. Okay, Jean, you found the cards. I knew this day would come. He started talking fast, trying to get ahead of the story. Those cards weren't from my marriage, I lied. They are related to a venture I started with Ethan 6 years ago. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. Ethan, 6 years ago, he was just out of college. Not 6 years ago, Jane. Was already working at a different firm. We were consulting on the side. Financial reporting, nothing huge, but Ethan, he was always ambitious. He found a loophole, a way to inflate reporting numbers to get us a huge bonus from a small tech firm looking for fast investment. Fraud, I stated simply. Well, yes, financial manipulation. We made a lot of money. $500,000 each. I used my money to pay off my mortgage and invest. I thought I was free. Ethan, he got greedy. He started using the same methods at our company, and he needed me to manage the external transfers because of my access to the accounts payable reconciliation reports. My head was spinning. The detailed, meticulous Jean Choi, the one who tracks every cent, was unknowingly managing the books for a corporate fraud scheme run by her boyfriend and her colleague. So the black card debt? That's Ethan's, not mine, Robert whispered. I've been holding the card and two others, because they are registered under a shell company we created. I'm the registered agent. He uses them for his personal expenses and funnels payments through me to keep them off his books and avoid IRS scrutiny. The $43,000 is his high roller debt. The Bahamas, the jewelry, the BMW payments, all him. I pay the minimum balance using the illicit funds we move. I felt nauseous. You were laundering money for Ethan. I was managing the money, trying to clean it up before we could split it and dissolve the shell corporation, Robert argued weakly. The Serenity Now Spa incident, the $347 charge, that was me paying my half of the suite rental, but it was my card. Ethan used the corporate card for his half, plus the extra $403, and then booked the privacy suite to discuss the documents. What documents, Robert? I demanded. The original signed agreements from 6 years ago, detailing the profit split and the shell corporation filing. We kept them in a small safe deposit box inside the spa's general manager's office. Martin Chen, the manager, he's Ethan's old friend. Martin was going to shred them tonight, but Ethan messed up the timing. The reason for the spa's extreme privacy protocol finally hit me. It wasn't about a massage or an affair. It was a SCIF, a sensitive compartmented information facility for corporate crime. They were using the spa's privacy suites as a secure meeting space because the security feeds could be disabled, and Martin Chen was their mole. Why? I asked, completely defeated. Why, Robert? You had a comfortable retirement. Why risk everything? Ethan was blackmailing me, Robert admitted, looking down at his lap. He threatened to expose our original fraud unless I helped him with the new corporate scheme. He needed my access to the AP system. He knew I couldn't risk my pension or my reputation. I panicked. I just wanted it to end. I sat there, 72 years old, learning that the kindest, most frugal man I had ever known was a blackmailed financial criminal. I drove us back toward the apartment building. I pulled into a 24-hour diner parking lot instead of our garage. It was 3:30 a.m. You are going to help me, Robert, I said, turning off the engine. You are going to tell the truth, all of it. He looked surprised. You're not going to turn me in? I don't know, I admitted honestly. Right now, I have to think about myself. I manage the books. I am unknowingly implicated in this. I could lose my pension too, but I also know Ethan is the puppet master, and I am going to destroy him publicly tomorrow. I looked at Robert, looked genuinely remorseful. I'll do whatever you need, Jean, I swear. I am so sorry. Good, I said. Because here's the plan. We have maybe 6 hours before that meeting. Hash update. 9:45 a.m. Friday morning. Okay, Reddit. I slept for maybe an hour between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m., huddled in my work chair at my desk, still wearing my outfit from yesterday. I showered, drank 4 cups of coffee, and went into full-on war mode. Robert stayed in the spare room. It was a wreck. He wrote down everything, every transaction, every date, every lie on a huge legal pad. We had 8 pages of evidence detailing the corporate fraud, the original manipulation, the shell corporation, and the blackmail. The sheer audacity of Ethan Anderson was astounding. I met Teresa in conference room C lobby exactly at 9:30 a.m. She looked wired, excited, and slightly terrified, clutching a thick envelope of printed receipts. Jean, I went to 3 different Kinkos, she whispered conspiratorially. This feels huge, like wire fraud huge. It is, I confirmed, taking the envelope. Teresa, what I am about to tell you cannot leave this room. Robert and Ethan are running a massive corporate fraud scheme, and Ethan is blackmailing Robert into managing the books. I gave her the bare minimum, the secret debt, the shell company, the spa being a secure meeting place. Risa, the know-it-all, listened without interrupting, only nodding gravely. So the $750 corporate charge wasn't just corporate wellness, she summarized. It was evidence of a crime. Exactly. And this morning, Robert decided to come clean. He provided me with the full accounting of their operations. I showed her the legal pad, keeping a strategic hand over the most sensitive details. Teresa was mesmerized. Holy SH, we have to give this to HR immediately. No, I insisted. HR will bury it. This will become an internal investigation. They'll fire them quietly, maybe let them resign and protect the company's image. I am not letting Ethan walk away with a severance package while I am potentially facing legal implications for bookkeeping fraud. So, the meeting at 10 a.m.? We are going nuclear, I confirmed. I need you to be my backup. When I present my report, Ethan will panic. I need you to loudly confirm the evidence I present. Teresa straightened her impeccably tailored blazer. Her eyes gleamed. I have never been happier to be the know-it-all, Jean. Consider me your co-conspirator. We walked toward the main auditorium. It was 9:55 a.m. The meeting was packed. Everyone was there. The CEO, Mr. Henderson, the VP of Finance, all the departmental heads, and about 200 regular employees. Ethan was already there, chatting loudly with the sales VP, looking smug and refreshed, probably after a quick nap and a $12 cold-pressed juice. Robert was sitting in the back row, looking pale and small, next to the emergency exit. I walked to the front and set my laptop down. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to slow my breathing. This was it, the moment of truth. Mr. Henderson, the CEO, started the meeting with the usual cheerful corporate nonsense about synergy and Q3 projections. I had the next segment, quarterly financial report anomalies. At 10:15 a.m., Mr. Henderson finished and handed the floor over to me. I walked to the podium. I took a deep breath. I smiled, the kind of smile that says, I know all your secrets and I am about to unleash hell. Good morning, everyone, I started, my voice clear and surprisingly strong. As Senior Administrator for Accounts Payable, my job is to ensure fiscal transparency and accuracy. Today, I am presenting the Q2 report, but I must lead with a critical amendment regarding recent anomalies that represent not just financial irregularities, but a significant breach of corporate trust. I paused and looked directly at Ethan, who was tapping furiously on his laptop, trying to look busy. He glanced up, smirked, and then went back to typing. Robert in the back looked like he might faint. Specifically, I continued, this concerns the $750 corporate charge filed under Client Entertainment and Wellness at the Serenity Now Spa on June 14th. Ethan's typing stopped abruptly. The room was silent. Mr. Anderson, earlier this week, you stated that this charge was a minor glitch and that you had paid it back. My records and the full accounts payable reconciliation show that this is untrue. The charge remains outstanding. Ethan stood up quickly, his face darkening. Mr. Henderson, with all due respect, this is an administrative oversight. Jean is turning a minor issue into a spectacle. I was going to pay it back today, I swear. It was a mental health day after a huge client push. I didn't let him finish. I leaned into the microphone. It was not a mental health day, Mr. Anderson. It was a secure location for the clandestine management of an external shell corporation and the processing of financial transactions related to a corporate fraud scheme. The silence in the auditorium was deafening. Every single head turned from me to Ethan. Ethan stammered, his expensive tan failing him. That is an outrageous lie. Jean, you are unstable. You're making slanderous accusations. I pulled out the envelope Teresa had prepared. I have the itemized receipt from Serenity Now Spa, which clearly breaks down the $750 charge, showing it was actually a split payment for a discreet day retreat privacy suite, which includes disabling security camera feeds for 4 hours of confidential business communication. I held up one copy of the receipt so the people in the front row could see the detail. The charge was split, I explained. One half was $347, paid by the corporate card, covering Mr. Anderson's portion of the retreat. The remaining portion of the suite, $347, was paid by his business partner. I walked down from the podium and straight toward Ethan. I put the receipt down hard on the table in front of him. And I know who that business partner is, Mr. Anderson. I have here the full statement for the Global Elite Services Black Card, used to pay the other $347. I looked across the room at Robert, who nodded weakly, his signal that he was ready. That black card, I announced, projecting my voice across the auditorium, was registered under a shell company used to funnel illicit corporate funds. It has a debt balance of $42,987, and its registered agent is sitting in the back row right now, because Ethan Anderson blackmailed him into helping him manage the books for this operation. I pointed directly at Robert. Robert Brooks, our beloved colleague and my partner, was forced into the scheme to conceal the tracks of a previous, large-scale financial manipulation they committed together 6 years ago. Now, the entire room was chaos. People started whispering loudly. The VP of Finance had his phone out, probably calling security. Ethan jumped up, knocking his chair over. He's lying, she's lying. This is a personal vendetta because she's old and crazy. Robert, tell them she's unstable. Robert, bless his heart, rose slowly from his seat in the back. He looked directly at me and then at the CEO. It's true, Mr. Henderson, Robert said, his voice surprisingly firm, cutting through the noise. I confirm everything Gina said. The cards, the debt, the previous fraud, the blackmail, the shell company, and the spa meeting to retrieve the documents. Ethan's face was purple. He looked around the room, trapped. He saw Robert confessing and realized his entire plan had failed. You old fool, Ethan screamed at Robert. He looked back at me. You think you won, Jean? You think this is over? You have no idea what you just exposed. You're implicated too, you signed those reports. Security finally rushed in, 2 large men heading straight for Ethan, who was now wildly swiping his laptop shut. I stood my ground. I signed the reports based on the data provided to me by the department heads, which includes Mr. Anderson, I said calmly. I was following protocol, not facilitating fraud. But I also found something else this morning, Mr. Anderson. I pulled out my phone and held it up, displaying a screenshot. $403 difference between your $347 half of the spa suite and the $750 corporate charge. It wasn't product or gift certificates. It was a transfer. An immediate $403 transfer to a personal, non-company Venmo account. I looked at the CEO. That is outright petty theft and immediate corporate fraud, Mr. Henderson. He didn't just lie, he used company funds to line his own pocket in real time. Ethan lunged toward me, trying to grab my phone, but the security guards tackled him immediately. He was screaming obscenities about me, Robert, and the company. They dragged him out of the auditorium kicking and yelling about lawsuits. It was honestly the most satisfying thing I have ever witnessed. Mr. Henderson, the CEO, was shell-shocked. He stood up and tried to restore order, promising an immediate comprehensive internal and external audit. I turned and walked out, right past the VP of Finance, who looked like he had aged 20 years in 20 minutes. Robert was still standing in the back, leaning against the wall. He looked devastated but relieved. "Jean," he said as I approached him. "Thank you, I can't believe you did that." "We need to talk to a lawyer," I stated simply. "And then we need to talk to the police. We're turning over all those cards and documents and you're reporting the previous fraud. You need immunity or at least leniency, Robert. Ethan cannot be the only one to go down, but he is the one who orchestrated this." He nodded, defeated. "You're right, I'm ready." I didn't hug him. I didn't hold his hand. I just walked us out of the building. My time as Robert's partner was over. My time as a financial administrator was likely on hold. My life was about to become paperwork and lawyers. A week later, processing the mess, so it's been 1 week since the great auditorium meltdown of Q2. I am typing this update from my daughter Sarah's 45F guest room. She insisted I move in immediately, citing emotional trauma and imminent need for lasagna. She's a pediatric nurse and extremely bossy, which is exactly what I needed. My life is literally a paperwork nightmare. I went on immediate paid administrative leave, which is both a blessing and a curse. I'm getting paid, but I can't go to the office, which means I can't do my favorite thing, tracking financial transactions. Robert and I went straight to an attorney that Friday afternoon. It cost $500 just for the initial consultation, which was excruciatingly painful, BTW. Lawyer, a very serious woman named Ms. Chavez, confirmed that because Robert confessed and cooperated immediately, and because Ethan was clearly the primary operator and blackmailer, Robert would likely face much less severe consequences. He wasn't the initiator, but he was certainly an accessory. He officially surrendered all 3 secret black cards and the entire accounting ledger. He contacted the police and the FBI, yes, actual FBI, and gave a full statement. He's facing possible charges related to money laundering and fraud from 6 years ago, but Ms. Chavez is confident she can negotiate a non-custodial sentence, probably probation and restitution, based on his age, cooperation, and the blackmail. The hardest part was separating our lives. I moved out that Saturday. It was brutal. 2 years and 8 months of accumulated life photos, shared groceries, his hideous collection of history books. I just left it all, taking only my clothes and my old photo albums. Sarah helped me pack and kept saying things like, "Mom, you dodged a bullet even if the bullet was 76 and wore sensible shoes." Robert tried to talk to me one last time before I left. He looked broken. He apologized, truly and sincerely. "I love you, Jean," he said, standing in the empty living room. "I was stupid and scared. I should have told you about Ethan 6 years ago when he first resurfaced. Should have been honest about the cards. You built a life with me based on a foundation of total financial deception, Robert," I replied, grabbing my box of Tupperware. "I trusted you implicitly. You knew I was a single-parent warrior who worked my whole life for financial stability. You risked all of that in my career for a man who used you as a pawn in a bigger game." I did not forgive him. I told him he had to face the consequences alone and that I needed absolute space. Understood? He's now living with his daughter in another state while this messy legal stuff gets sorted. I blocked his number, his email, and his attempts to connect via Facebook Messenger. Petty? Absolutely. Necessary? Definitely. Fast forward. 3 weeks since the takedown, I am slowly rebuilding. My apartment search is depressing. Rent is astronomical, and Sarah's couch is starting to give me back issues, but I am free of that awful shared lease and the constant low-level paranoia. Office is a total soap opera. Ethan Anderson was immediately terminated. The board is scrambling. There are rumors of an SEC investigation. Teresa Roberts, my unlikely ally, has become a legend. She's being called the Budget Avenger and is apparently getting a huge promotion, partly because she kept track of all the missing petty cash over the years. Greg and it was indeed buying energy drinks, but Ethan also used it to fund his shady transactions. Teresa sends me daily updates via encrypted text. She's reveling in the chaos, and honestly, I love that for her. The privacy violation threat, the disabling of the security cameras at the spa, is what really saved my skin. Because the suite was designated for private business communication and security protocols were engaged, the lawyer used that to argue that the actions were taken to conceal the fraud, not that I was complicit in the transactions, which only came to light when I saw the receipt. It helped prove the secretive nature of their operation, separate from the normal AP process. I realized something profound about my own character through this mess. Always prided myself on being detail-oriented and focused, the one who knew where every cent went. But I was so focused on the small details, the $43 Trader Joe's run, the split rent, that I missed the massive, gaping red flag of the secret high-roller life. I allowed my emotional trust in Robert to override my financial instincts. That hurts. It really hurts to admit I missed it. But I also realized that I responded not with fear, but with action. I became the investigator, the detective, and the executioner. I didn't wait for someone else to fix it. I took control back, even if it meant blowing up my own life publicly. I had my first good day yesterday. I was walking through the park and saw a couple arguing loudly about who left the toothpaste cap off. It was so petty, so normal, so mundane, and I actually laughed out loud, a real, genuine laugh. I realized I was done processing the betrayal and starting to process the future. The truth is, even though I went for the tell the truth publicly approach, everything is still messy. Robert is still fighting potential jail time. My career is still in limbo. I'm starting from scratch at 72, which is absolutely terrifying. But I'm also safe. I'm secure. My daughter has my back. I finally realized that the peace and quiet I thought I had earned wasn't something Robert was going to provide. It was something I had to build for myself, brick by brick, receipt by receipt. I'm still eating ramen, and I haven't watched Disney Plus in weeks because I am dealing with paperwork, but last night, I finally changed the password on our old shared Netflix account. It felt surprisingly satisfying. To everyone who messaged me, thank you for the support, the outrage, and the advice. I'm taking it day by day. I'm not sure what comes next, but I know it won't involve secret credit cards or corporate peacocking. I'm Jean Choi, 72, single-parent warrior, and I survived the Serenity Now Spa conspiracy. We'll update if I ever manage to afford a premium HD streaming service again. TBH, I think I earned it.